Hi guys, welcome to our channel Journey2Med. I'm Liddy.
And I'm Hazal.
And today's video is going to be about distinguishing between a good personal statement and a bad personal statement, as well as 6 key mistakes to avoid.
Before we start, make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already. So number 1 guys, make sure you do not waffle.
Try to be as succinct as possible when writing your personal statement. Admissions officers have many personal statements to read to be clear about what you're trying to say.
A good tip that one of my teachers told me was to make sure that every sentence in your personal statement tells the admissions officer something new about you and just adds more value to your personal statement as a whole.
So now guys, we're going to read an example of a sentence from a personal statement that includes a lot of waffling and an example that is a bit more concise.
The first sentence, which there is a bit of waffling in, is last year I joined St John's Ambulance and I'm now a first aid cadet. I was able to learn first aid and volunteer at multiple events, the most challenging being the London Marathon.
And now for a more improved version. Being a St John's Ambulance first aid cadet has allowed me to volunteer at many events, the most challenging being the London Marathon. And this one has 133 characters. The second one that I read is a bit more concise, but both of them are expressing the same point, which is really important because there is a character limit.
So for any of you that don't know, the character limit for the personal statement is either 4,000 characters, including spaces, or 47 lines, whichever limit you reach first. So when you first start your personal statement, you're likely to pass the limit, and that's okay, but just make sure that there's some sort of way where you'll be able to check your characters to make sure that you're on top of things. I did my personal statement on Word, so there was a way where I could check the limit.
I downloaded an app during the time in which I was writing my personal statement that allowed me to check my characters as well as my words. So this meant that even though I was making edits to my personal statement, when I was deleting stuff, adding stuff, I could always know how many words I have left or how many characters I have left until I reach the limit, because when it comes to putting this in your UCAS application, it can cause quite a few problems if you weren't initially aware of the limit. Number 2 guys, avoid repetition. It's very easy to repeat the same type of connectives in your personal statement, such as because, or to even repeat the same type of skills such as time management skills, communication skills. You can say these things 3 or 4 or 5 times, which doesn't really look good in your personal statement because it almost shows that you don't have enough to talk about. So to avoid this, I'll strongly suggest perhaps looking at a thesaurus, trying to find similar words that have the same meaning, or even rearranging your sentence so that it looks a bit different. We have another example of repetition in a personal statement. I was able to apply the communication skills that I had learned when interacting with clients at my job as a plate waiter. Working as a plate waiter while in full-time education improved my organisation, and this has 203 characters.
And an improved version of this sentence is, interacting with clients at my job as a waitress allowed me to become better at working under pressure, and this sentence has 102 characters. As you guys can see, the second sentence is a lot more concise, and even though they're both saying the same thing, it has fewer characters, which is good as it will ensure you will not pass the character limit.
By cutting that repetition, it means that your personal statement will be easier to read and follow.
Number 3, avoid being unrealistic. What we mean by this is, make sure that in your personal statement you are mentioning both the positive and negative aspects of a medical career.
It shows that you've identified that there's always a positive and negative aspect of each profession. Also recognise that it can be stressful, there are long hours you have to work. By recognising this, it shows the admissions officers that you've really done your research, and it could even make you stand out.
An example where you could be seen as being unrealistic: the working hours are great and will allow me to have a good work-life balance at all times.
One of that example is that at all times is very unrealistic to say that you will always have that work-life balance at all times, because sometimes it just isn't doable because of the amount of work you have to do. A better example that kind of shows the positive and negative aspects of medicine. Although there are many positive aspects of medicine, shadowing doctors has also exposed me to the long hours that they work. As we can see from this example, even though the person is aware that there are positive aspects of medicine, they are also aware of the negative side of things as well.
Just to conclude, it's impressive if you can summarise the reality and demands of the profession.
Number 4, do not lie. By lying and saying that you witnessed something that you didn't can easily lead you to use medical terminology inaccurately, which will be very difficult for you if you have interviews when questioned about it. An example is, observing a 12-year-old recover from syndactyly toe surgery led me to do more research on the condition. If you're going to make a bold claim, Like, for example, I went and did research about this condition, actually do research about the condition.
During an interview, the interviewer can pick one little part of your personal statement and go into depth about that, so make sure that you're not lying because you can be questioned on anything. Number 5 is having a lack of structure. We would recommend that you have an introduction and a conclusion, and also make sure that you're being reasonable with your paragraph sizes.
Of course, your work experience paragraphs will be bigger than your other paragraphs. So try not to make, for example, your extracurricular activities paragraph to be the same size as your work experience paragraph, because the admissions officers would be more interested in seeing what experience you've gotten to find out more about the profession.
Be selective with the content you want to add into your personal statement, and we do understand that you will have a lot more to talk about at the start, so make sure you just cut it down as you go along.
Of course, presentation is important, but don't focus too much on it. When it actually came to sending off my application, I didn't have any spaces between my paragraphs because I had so many characters, and it's fine. Medical universities understand that there is a character limit, so don't think too much about presentation and think much more about the quality and things that you're mentioning in your personal statement. Number 6, guys, don't listen to every piece of advice known to man.
At first, you feel like you don't really know what to do with your personal statement, so you just go to anyone who knows what they're talking about. But this meant that I ended up with a lot of contradicting advice. I had to take their advice on board and realise what I actually wanted to add and what I didn't.
So I ended up actually sending off my personal statement with a spelling mistake because everyone was throwing their advice at me and I didn't know which one to take. And of course I felt like it was a rush for me to get my personal statement in as soon as possible, because there's this rumour that the earlier you send it, the more likely you are to get interviews, which just isn't true. So try not to rush it and be very wary about the advice that you choose to take on board. Thank you very much for watching our video. We really do hope that you enjoyed this 2-part series. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Always make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and if you want to ask us any more questions or just want to talk to us about something, you can always leave a comment down below or DM us on social media.
See you soon!